because the talk will be in English. So we have a talk from Dmitriy Kostiuk that came here from Belarus, and he will tell us about how gnulinux and FLOSS keeps history of graphical user interface alive. So give an applause to Dmitriy.
Thank you. Well, before doing it, I'll spoil one more minute to brief advertising of Belarusian conference, which is really close to Yesin Linuxova from the format point of view. It takes place in summer. Each summer, well, near Grodno. And sometimes we also have a separate winter session, but we just made it in 2016, so the next one will be in 2018, I think so. The conference has several official languages, including English, but taking into account that most people in Belarus are Russian speakers, if you say that Russian language is allowable, then it will be really difficult to make a conference with a large amount of English talks. So I've taken a few book of abstracts with me. They are lying there on the table for those who would like to look at them. Yes, we still are printing proceedings. I know that a rather large amount of conference came into pure electronic form about abstracts, but well, I don't know why. Maybe because some of organizers like LaTeX a lot, possibly. Still, it's a mixture of papers in different languages, including English, and some other articles which are in Russian. At least they have some are in English. And there are also a few interviews at the end, which are not in English language. Maybe it is the most interesting part of the book. And now, so everyone are welcome. And now I'll try to return to the topic of my today talk. As previous speaker did, I also have an overview model of this presentation. I have small amount of slides. Oh, but the size of window makes it a little bit troublesome. Who knows? Just a moment. We will walk through the history, or you may say through historical milestones of evolution of graphical user interface, and see how can they be examined in a Linux environment. And sometimes we'll go down just to see some specific alternatives, or just to see an evolution of exact graphical user interface, exact desktop environment, or graphical shell over the time, before returning to the main timeline. Why is Linux connected to this topic? You know, Linux and open source software at all is such a really comfortable environment to keep old and even ancient pieces of software still runnable. Maybe it's advantage of open source technology. So maybe you remember that typical view on the beginning of evolution of graphical operating system is creation of Mac OS operating system somewhere in 1980s by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Maybe some have seen the Pirates of Silicon Valley movie. In fact, it's not exactly true, and we will try to look at few earlier samples which are real predecessors. So our first example is 1973, the first graphical workstation created by Xerox. In fact, the history of graphical user interface was initiated by Douglas Engelbart, the person who had invented mouse. And at least we know that he had invented mouse, but in fact he had invented a lot of more, taking into account video conferencing software, window graphics interface, and you know, almost everything you touch in your computer nowadays has roots in his ideas. And the first computer based on his ideas was Xerox Alto. Xerox have put it on market in 1973. I have no photo of this computer, just it wasn't interesting. I have really few photos of some specific devices, which are looking a little bit strange, but this one was not so interesting. It was a typical workstation, only screen had vertical orientation and was looking some like iPad nowadays, but of course not so thin. Anyway, it had 600 square 800 display resolution, it had mouse, it had graphical cursor, Windows as a net adapter, and a lot of more interesting hardware. For example, it was the first workstation with laser printer, but, well, you know, Xerox was producing copiers, and laser printer is half of a copier. So it would be silly not to include it. Anyway, nowadays we can still run some software from this Xerox Alto through an emulator, which can be compiled for Linux or for Windows compatible operating systems. Here you see one of these samples of this ancient software. It's a file manager. When we are speaking about file managers, two-panel file managers are often called orthodox file manager system. Yeah, and they are really orthodox because this one was graphical but still had two panels. And also you can see a start button, which was present in these ancient times, and some strange taskbars, which are really difficult to use. Well, I can try to click something. Yeah. But more interesting is graphical editor, which was included in Xerox. If you look at it, you may think that it is looking really familiar. Yes? Please remember Microsoft Paint, which have appeared much, much later. If you remove half of buttons, it will be practically the same design. In fact, it's an illusion. The operation was a little bit different. To draw something, you had first to click control points and then to choose an instrument. Maybe it will work. You see, the simulator is not very good, especially when speaking about cursor. But yeah, it tries to draw something. Nowadays, we use absolutely different model of interaction in graphical editors, of course. If we are saying that Steve Jobs have pirated or copied the metaphor, so-called desktop metaphor, Xerox really worked with more traditionally looking desktop machines, but a little bit later. And in 1973, it produced only this computer with full screen applications. So, and the next one will be not Apple. The next one will be an Andrew project. No one knows about it, but still it had appeared 1 year before the Apple operating systems. In fact, it was a computer environment in Carnegie Mellon University, just for the campus. And, you know, both founders of this university, Carnegie and Mellon, both of them were Andrews. So everything in this system is named after Andrew: Andrew project, Andrew user interface system, Andrew user environment, Andrew toolkit, and so on. Andrew message system. For some strange reason, email application is not called Andrew email, it's just mail. I don't know why. Interesting that there were no clear widget toolkits yet, but still these graphical applications were built from so-called embeddable objects, which are resembling, some later examples like OLE automation in Microsoft operating systems, for example, like formula editor or chart editor or anything like this. But the whole interface was built from such objects, and one of the main part of all application was a text editor. It was supposed that no application without text editor has sense. So here we see this text editor. Oh, sorry, it's not right cursor. And we can scroll it a little bit to look. Besides typical photos and diagrams, it was possible to embed any applet you want. For example, formulas and even some live animated objects, which are in fact pieces of code and not something you supposed to meet in a text document. And oh, what is this? It looks a little bit strange. Yeah, it's demo effect. I think I should reboot the system. While it will reboot itself, few words about how is it done. The initial idea was to use to use virtual machines instead of screenshots, and the main purpose was to create largest presentation than all our other speakers have. So it was rather successful. It allows me to have presentation of about, well, I don't know exactly, 100 of gigabytes in size, or maybe smaller, maybe 50 gigabytes. Okay, let's try to run it once again. And it's not so difficult, in fact. We just use a presentation framework in 5th version of HTML. And in fact, it explains everything. Several tens of virtual machines are running in background, and VNC client written in JavaScript connects to them. So the technology is not so complicated. Just a moment, I'll run the browser once again. Yeah, it's here. And we can continue, just run them. The only one thing you would like to have is solid-state drive not to wait until all of them are loaded. And it's not really resource, it's not a really resource-hungry application, in fact. 7 years old notebook is capable to run them, as you can see. So I think that we will see the next one. At least I hope. No? Oh. Yeah, here it is. If looking at widgets, you can notice that developers were not designers but more mathematicians. You see a lot of ellipses. These ellipses are checkboxes. No one tried to draw any visually attractive these times. Here it is. Now we can finally approach to Apple Lisa systems. You see two photos of two computers on the right side. The topmost, looking like oscilloscope, was the first Apple graphical workstation, too expensive to be really popular, and the emulator is showing us how did this software look like. They have, no, the mouse is, well, the software has desktop with a recycle bin on the bottom. It has menu on top, which is still present in all Apple systems, at least in all Apple desktop systems. And drop-down menus, file manager with icons, everything was already here. But it was too expensive, and in fact, 1 year later, Apple have produced another machine without multitasking, with only 128 kilobytes of operating memory, but with a 4 times price drop. And this system became really popular, and other graphical operating systems were trying to copy it. In fact, it was absolutely single-tasking system. You see the amount of operating system, yeah? The amount of RAM. When you run some application, file manager disappears, and so on. And Apple was successfully fighting with attempts to make a clone of this desktop metaphor. Here we see the open source clone of the first graphical shell, which was sued by Apple lawyers for copying this menu on top, and especially they didn't want people to copy recycle bin. I don't know why, but about 7 graphical shells were shut down by Apple lawyers in all these battles, and legislation with Microsoft was lasting until 1994. And some of these systems were rather popular, and this one was recreated by fans, and now it can be seen in all distributions of FreeDOS as a graphical shell, which is used by nobody. And frankly speaking, no one knows that it is present there. And I will not say it's so much usable, but anyway, it's an open source software. If you buy something without Windows, perhaps you buy a notebook with FreeDOS. It's funny, by the way, contemporary notebooks have secure boot turned on by default, and even cannot run this FreeDOS anymore, but still, if you want to buy a notebook without Windows, there is a high probability that you will have a non-runnable FreeDOS inside. I don't know how they do it. Okay, other systems will run not on DOS but on Linux. The next milestone in the history of graphical user interface was 1987, when Steve Jobs was thrown away from Apple, and he had to manage creation of something which cannot be legislated by Apple lawyers. The result is a really interesting graphical shell. Here we see its open source clone once again. When some popular graphical interface is shut down, someone tries to recreate it. And these recreated clones live in Linux practically forever. For example, Android user interface system, no one tried to compile them from really old times, but if you can run some versions of Red Hat or Slackware, third version, for example, you can run this Android user interface system, and I don't know what for, maybe just to make a presentation. So the same, GNU-step is in little bit better state. It is still runnable, and I know people that still use some core elements of it, Window Maker, Window Manager, for example. The idea of changing interface into something non-legislable by Apple was done rather successfully. Especially interesting part is this square with, yes, it's recycle bin. It's Apple safe recycle bin. By the way, you see a lot of so-called dock apps. If you have used Window Maker, Window Manager, then you have probably know about this feature of creating a tiny application which can draw not on its own window but on a button of about 60 per 60 pixels in size. There are several hundreds of dock apps for Window Maker. Some of them can even run Doom in this screen size. I'm not sure for reasons, just because it's possible, perhaps. And this, for example, this floating yellow dot is the processor load monitor. And it is not so usable nowadays, and not so widely used nowadays, but still I see, especially I see in Russian conferences, some people use Window Maker and their notebooks. 1988, the first Unix display, graphical display system, created by Massachusetts Institute of Technology, DEC and IBM. It was a joint project. Once again, they wanted to create a distributed campus environment, but occasionally they have created a lot of things, including X Windows system and Kerberos server of authentication, which is used in, well, in almost all open source secure systems. It's funny, but the applications of this project, Athena, the name of the project is not known anymore. It's almost impossible to Google it, but still components of this project, especially some applications, are included in all major Linux distributions as a part of Xorg server. Well, I'm speaking about Xeyes, the unusable nowadays text editor Xedit, and, well, graphical man system, which is also never used, and of course the calculator, which looks rather contemporary. It was also possible to see it in colors, but in fact it was intended to work with black and white pixels, but you could substitute color of black pixel and you could substitute color of white pixel for anything you want. So colorful version looks practically the same. The next system is known by nobody, almost nobody, and is, at least it is included in Debian, nowadays. It is so-called open look. One more joint effort, now joint effort of Sun Microsystems, ADT and Xerox, to make a standard of unique graphical user interface. They had clear goal to avoid compatibility with Apple graphical interfaces, to make something which is safe from legal battles, and it was not such a happy attempt, in fact. First of all, they have reinvented menu in a really bad approach. All buttons are round, but the round form, the round shape of buttons is exactly to avoid some, problems in legal field. But in fact, these menus are combo boxes, and you should click them with right button if you want to choose something, and if you click left button, you just activate the first element. Almost impossible to use, and I would like you to look at these scroll bars, which, yes, if you remember recent versions of Ubuntu, I don't know whether Canonical have seen this ever, but they have reinvented these scroll bars once again. The next slide is Motif Widget Toolkit and Common Desktop Environment. The next attempt to make a standard Unix view was successful. It was based on a highly commercial Motif Widget Toolkit, and it was also a joint effort, now from DEC, Hewlett-Packard, and in fact IBM have joined to this team later and brought some ideas from the OS/2 operating system. The well-known feature of this motif is so-called flat and buttons with a lot of angles, flat and square and gray. And that's why when the motif had started to look outdated, people were calling it, unofficially of course, ugly gray buttons. In 1993, it was modern, but the most positive part about it, it was the first one which was comfortably usable, without some extraordinary strange ideas about reinventing the usage of mouse and so on. And by the way, here we see the live CD, which is also Debian based, and has motif is as an only graphical shell. It was created just for demo purposes. Oh?
Probably with plastic as a library.
Yes, I'll tell a little bit more about it. At the same year, Silicon Graphics have also created one more Unix graphical shell for its own indie workstations. At first it was called Indigo Magic, then IREX Interactive Desktop. It was also based on Motif,